I made over 600,000 online from skills I almost didn't share. Skills I had been using for years that I never thought anyone would pay for. In this video, I'm going to show you how to spot the skills you're probably overlooking and how to build meaningful income around them. Before I made anything online, I did what most people do. I chased what I thought was working. Affiliate marketing, platform payouts, different niches. And for a while, it kind of worked. A bit of traffic, a bit of income, but it never stayed stable. If the platform owns the audience, if the algorithm controls the traffic, if someone else owns the offer, then you don't really own the business. You're building on borrowed ground, and borrowed ground always collapses. So at some point, I just got tired of it and I asked myself one honest question. What do I actually know that someone else is struggling with right now? The answer was always there, but I dismissed it for years. That was the blind spot, and that's what we're going into next. I studied multimedia design and I used all of those skills for years on personal projects and client work. I went through a lot of trial and error, had small wins along the way, but I just never thought about teaching them. I didn't think I was good enough to teach, kept comparing myself to people better than me. But one day I thought, what if I just tried sharing it anyway? So I created some graphic and video templates, tutorials showing people how to use them. And to my surprise, people bought them and they thanked me. They told me it saved them time and it solved their problem. And that was the first time I actually felt something was finally working. But here's the problem. Most people look at what they know and think this isn't special enough. They compare with people ahead of them instead of realizing the value of what they already have. And that's the blind spot. Let me show you what I mean. Think of this as a skill spectrum. 0 are the complete beginners, and 10 is the world's leading expert. You're probably somewhere in the middle of this. And most people measure themselves by looking up, how far they are from the 10, and the gap feels huge. So they wait, they study more, they try to get more credentials, they keep waiting until they feel ready. But the person who needs your help isn't up here. They're down here, right behind you. Someone who is exactly where you were a few years ago. Think about it this way. If you wanted to run your first marathon, you wouldn't hire the world record holder. You probably end up injured in the first week trying to follow their plan. You would hire someone a few steps ahead, someone who's done it, has a decent timing, and can show you the way. And this works at every level. If you're a 5, you help the 2s, 3s, and 4s. If you're a 7, you help the 4, 5s, and 6. You don't need to be a 10 to help someone. You just need to be a few steps ahead of the person you're helping. That memory, that proof, and that proximity is exactly what makes you valuable to them. That's the proximity effect. Your obvious is someone else's breakthrough. And here's what nobody tells you about teaching what you know. The act of teaching makes you better at it. So as you teach, you also grow. And as you move up the spectrum, you can help people at higher levels. But knowing your skills are valuable doesn't mean you know what to do with them and how to run a business out of it. I learned that the hard way too, and it took me another year of false starts before I figured out the order of things I had to build in. That's why we're going into the system next. Here's the system I use, and this is the part I want you to pay the closest attention to. This is the North Star method. 3 phases built in a specific order. Let me show you what I mean. At the base, identity. This is everything you are. The things you know from living is the thing that nobody else can copy. This is your foundation where everything starts. In the middle, positioning. This is what makes a specific person feel like what you're offering was made exactly for them. And at the top, attraction. This is your content and your sales process, the thing that takes a stranger from watching to trusting to becoming a client. Almost everyone starts at the top with content and funnels before anything underneath is solid, and they wonder why it doesn't last. Identity first, then positioning, then attraction. Get that order right and the right clients show up. Let's break this down properly, starting with phase one, identity. Identity is who you are and what you stand for. Your skills, your experience, your story, your proof. And if you're thinking, but I don't really have proof yet, that's usually the misunderstanding. You're not starting without proof, you're just not recognizing what you have already lived through. You're already the evidence. So here's something small I want you to do. Open up your Notes app or ChatGPT or Claude and use the voice dictation function. Just brain dump and ask AI to organize it into teams. Everything you know, every skill you have. Think about the year you spent trying to make something work. Think about the mistakes that cost you time or money. Every problem you've already solved. Every struggle you overcame. Every win you have achieved. Even the small stuff that feels obvious. And once you have that list, ask yourself one question. What do I already know that someone else is struggling with right now? That is your North Star question, and that's where your identity begins as an expert. Once you know what you're building from, phase two is positioning. How to stand out and become the obvious choice for the right person. There are 4 questions to do this. Who, what, how, why. Who do you help best? Not a broad audience, a specific person you genuinely understand and can help the most. What changes for them? What becomes different in their life working with you? How do you deliver it differently in a way they have never tried before? And why you? Why you're credible for this specific person and problem? When all 4 align, you become the obvious choice for the right person. That's positioning. If any of these 4 questions felt hard to answer and you want help working through them, there's a link below. Phase 3 is attraction, how strangers become clients. Most people think this is just content. It's not. Attraction is an ecosystem. People find you in different ways: content, ads, referral, outreach. But they all pass through the same process. First, visibility. They start seeing you more than once. You become familiar, recognizable, part of their world. Then, belief shift. Your content changes how they see their problem and what's possible. But that doesn't happen through information alone. It happens when 2 forces come together. Head content builds intellectual trust. These are your frameworks, step-by-steps, and how-tos. It helps people understand. But head only creates an audience that learn from you, not one that connects with you enough to act. Heart content builds emotional trust. These are your stories, shared struggles, lived experiences. They help people feel understood. But heart only creates an audience that relates to you, not one that trusts your expertise enough to act. People move when they believe. Belief shift happens when logic and emotion meet. Then comes conversion. This is your sales process where they raise their hand and signal interest. You show them the gap between where they are and where they want to be. and you bridge it with your solution. That's how they become clients. And when you help your clients get results, that becomes proof, which feeds back into the flywheel for everyone who comes after. That's the ecosystem. That's how strangers become clients. Now, let's make this concrete. Most people assume an online business has to be high volume to be meaningful. So they end up undercharging, trying to get as many clients as possible, overworking, and burnout. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't need viral content or a huge audience to make this work. Let me show you. Let's say you build and position an offer for $2,500. All you need is 4 clients per month to make 10,000 a month, which is 120,000 a year. And what if you positioned and price your offer at $5,000? That would be 20,000 a month and 240,000 a year. Now, what if you built the capacity to take on 10 clients a month? That would be 50,000 a month and 600,000 a year. What we're talking about here is a different way to build. Not more clients, better alignment. Not more volume, more impact. A meaningful business that works without needing thousands of customers. If this video helped you see your skills and potential differently, tell me in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you want to actually build this out properly, not just think about it, the link's in the description. It walks you through the whole method, and at the end, there's an option to book a call with me directly. Go through it, then decide. So I'll leave you with this. What do you already know from your own experience, the things you've actually lived through, that someone is struggling with right now?